What's up, guys? Welcome back to episode 2 of Bros Talk Everything podcast. Again, I'm your host, Tony Pat. We have a lot to talk about today, so let's just get into it. All right, guys. So for today's scripture reading, I had Acts 7.
And I had Exodus 13.
So for Acts 7, we see Stephen, one of the early people in the church, the first Christian martyr. He's brought to all these people to be judged, and then he gives a speech, and the speech consists of the entire chapter. So in his speech, he talks about how the Exodus, what Evan has, then he also talks about Genesis and then King David. And he points out that on every person that God anointed, every person that God brought forth from his people denied him or denied them before they accepted them. So, for example, Moses was trying to help someone that was being that they were fighting with each other, and then they responded to Moses, the Jews did, saying, "Who made you ruler and judge?" But he was sent by God to be their ruler and judge. So he went away for 40 years, and not through his power, but through God's power, he comes back so he can lead them. And so what Stephen says is the same thing's happening with Jesus. They've denied who God sends every time he sends someone. And so in return, he becomes the first Christian martyr, which is someone that dies for their belief.
I have Exodus 13. And Exodus 13 is kind of the beginning of the Israelites getting led out of Egypt, and it's kind of phasing into the bigger story. And I'll learn more about as I continue later on in my Exodus reading. But this chapter was really important to me because I think it talks a lot about sacrifice. And the last passage that I read from Isaiah 8 kind of dealt with an active real-world event. This one isn't as specific to something going on at this time, but I still feel like it is important that we have to understand to give up things in our life. Basically, where I'm getting at with this is that in the reading, the people of Israel were called to conceive their first son for Christ and give him to God. So I learned more on what that word conceiving means, and it means to give in the blood to God. And they were called to make this sacrifice to give up their firstborn to continue their bloodline for generations and be fully committed to Christ throughout all of this. And I feel like we need to be more committed to Christ in all that we do. I remember hearing a sermon somewhat recently about fasting. And I know we think of fasting as an Old Testament thing, sometimes a New Testament thing, but I feel like fasting still applies, and it doesn't need to just be from food. Like in the Bible, they would fast from food. And it talks a little bit about fasting from food in Exodus 13, actually, where they only had to eat a certain kind of bread. They could only eat unleavened bread, and there was no yeast allowed. But what I'm getting at with fasting is that it doesn't require just fasting food. It can be something that you enjoy doing that you feel like is holding you back. It could be cutting back on your screen time. It could be cutting back on how much you're on your Xbox or your PlayStation. Just something that you feel like is drawing you away from God. Maybe limit it and try and spend more time with God as the people in Exodus did. So I feel like I said earlier, it's not specifically applying to something that's going on right now, but it's something that's been going on for a long time. So I still feel like it is very relevant to current times and that we should be applying Exodus 13 into our lives daily.
All right, guys. So in light of what Evan read for Exodus 13, we're going to start a new weekly tradition where we start taking the Bible and putting it into practice. So for me, I saw lesson was fasting, right? So the biggest thing I have to work on is my screen time. I have about 6 or 7 hours of screen time a day for my phone. But I know I have to cut down on that because that's the biggest thing that distracts me from God. So I'm going to try to cut down to either, I think, under 5 or under 4 hours a day. But what do you think about it, Evan? What do you have to work on?
My screen time usually isn't that high. I'm not on my phone that much. So specifically during the day when it's still light outside, try and get some fresh air and go outside, maybe throw a lacrosse ball. But number one thing I need to work on is that when the sun goes down and it's nighttime, I'm on my Xbox a lot. So I don't know if there's a way to track your screen time on Xbox, but when it comes to playing games like MLB The Show and Fortnite, it seems like I'll start playing and say I'm only going to play for 30 minutes and then get hooked. So I think I play for like hours and I'll lose track of time. So I want to like try to stop doing that and focus more on like having a set amount of time. And I think having that set amount of time per night, per I guess like gaming session rather, I cut that time down rather than overall screen time. So I feel like that's the number one thing I need to work on.
Okay, sounds good. But next week we're gonna reveal what our screen time is to keep us accountable for it. And so our favorite time is coming around, football season. So we're both like college football watchers, a little bit more than NFL. So what are your like biggest takes for like next season?
All right, number one, and this is a little bit biased, but I got the Vanderbilt Commodores being one of the most explosive offenses in college football, and I have a few reasons why. So Vanderbilt returned some of the most production in all of college football, specifically on the offensive end. So, they're losing star wide receiver Quincy Skinner, but they still retain quarterback Diego Pavia, who had a breakout season, Eli Stowers, who is ranked the best tight end in the SEC, which many would argue is the best conference, and they're keeping running back Cedric Alexander. And after a solid season offensively, definitely an improved year, as many would argue, putting up 35 on Georgia Tech, 40 on Alabama. There were some not as good games, like only putting up 24 on Texas, which was still a good game to watch. Still a close game, and only putting up 23 on Tennessee in a very unfortunate loss at the end of the season. But I feel like with all the production that Vanderbilt returns, offensively and defensively, but I'm specifically talking I'm talking about the offense because there's a ton of star power on that offense. They can make a loud noise, and not just the passing game with the Pavia to Stowers connection, but the running game. I mean, Pavia's a great dual threat quarterback, and Cedric Alexander in the backfield, it should make some noise. I mean, you got two good runners back there, which, I mean, the more the merrier in the backfield, as many would say. So, Diego Pavia led the team in rushing yards last season, but Cedric Alexander is still a very solid running back and should improve, just like Pavia should. And hopefully Pavia can stay injury-free. He played with an injury a lot of last year, specifically starting in, I believe, the Kentucky game, which was a great win following the Alabama win. He could have been a little banged up from the Alabama game. I don't really know the whole story on that one. But hopefully he can stay healthy for a whole season, and Vanderbilt can have a strong season coming into this year. And this is going to be optimistic to a lot of people, but I'm really thinking a 9-win season for Vanderbilt, at least ahead of the bowl game. I mean, hopefully they can be ranked this year because I've got some upset wins happening against South Carolina, against LSU, and this one shouldn't seem like much of an upset, but after getting upset by Georgia State last year, I feel like they're not going to let that happen again. So there's 3 right there. If I'm being completely honest, the odds of them beating Alabama again are slim to none. I don't think Bama's going to let that happen. So it's probably one less win in the books, but potentially a Tennessee upset. I mean, I would love to see that. They played hard last year and went up 14-0 pretty quickly. I really do think there's potential to beat them. So hoping for a great year next year. I really do believe it could happen. I'm thinking an 8 or a 9-win season for the Doors. Anchor down. So, Tony, I got to ask, man. You're asking about my takes. So, what are your hot takes this college football season?
So, I don't want to make anybody mad specifically because I know I have a few Texas friends out there, but
Chase.
I don't think they're going to have a good season next year. I think Arch Manning's going to play wonderful. I think that he's favored to win Heisman, plus 700, but I just don't see them having a season like they did this year. Like, in the playoffs, beating Arizona State in overtime. Like, I just feel like that win translated to their entire season. That they did have some, like, wins, good wins, impressive wins, but they just weren't dominant. Like, in a way of where it was more, like, luck-based than dominant. And they're losing Quinn Ewers, which I never thought he was, like, very good. But he always had a clutch factor where he would just, like Tyrese Halliburton, just, like, just clutch in game time. Like game time situations, just insane. But and they're losing Isaiah Worthy. But I think last year they had a very light SEC schedule because everyone was talking about how they were going to fall off moving to the SEC. But they did amazing anyways. But they didn't really play anybody, in my opinion, right? So I think this schedule is going to wear them down. And with a new quarterback in, with a new, like, with all their seniors gone, I think that it's going to be tough for them this year. I'm not saying they're not going to make the playoffs. I'm not saying they're not going to, like, be a good team. I'm just saying they're not going to have as much of a dominant season as they did this year. But, like,
All right.
talking about Texas falling off, do you, like, anybody else is going to fall off?
Not specifically a team, but actually, yeah, a team. Because of one man. This isn't necessarily a hot take. It's more so a neutral take. Because I feel like a lot of people agree on this, especially Georgia fans. And my family is Georgia fans. So we all agree on this one. That's Carson Beck.
Yeah.
So I do not hold a high opinion of Carson Beck. If you know me well, you know that I could go on a rant about Carson Beck, but I'm not going to go on a full rant about Carson Beck. Do I think he betrayed his team? I do. Do I think he lied to the media by saying he was there for Gunnar Stockton? I do. Do I think he's a good quarterback? I don't. I think he's an okay quarterback. I think he had one good season with UGA, but kind of going back to the Penix take, I think they figured him out. Either they figured him out or he just fell off. One of the two. All I know is he was good that one season, had an unfortunate loss to Bama late in the season, didn't make the playoffs. Probably should have, but it was a really tough season to make the playoffs. And we proved ourselves in a great, usually proved themselves in a great bowl win, but a 60-point win. That was a great win. I mean, say what you want about Florida State last season, 2 seasons ago, but still a really good win for UGA. But then I noticed a trend that Carson Beck was falling off. I believe he had 3 interceptions against Texas, 2 or 3 against Bama. Just wasn't the same quarterback. He wasn't a terrible quarterback, but not someone who I think should be leading UGA. And then he had his injury against Texas, which was rough, but I thought there was no chance UGA was going to win that game. Gunnar Stockton stepped in. I don't know if Stockton's any better than Beck. Maybe a little bit better, but I don't really see him being a ton better. He was probably really nervous in the pocket, especially his first game as a starter being that big playoff game against Notre Dame. But back to Carson Beck here. That I don't really see him being good at Miami. People are saying he's going to have easier competition in the ACC, easier conference. He's going to run through the ACC. I don't believe it. I don't think he's going to run through the ACC. The ACC is a good conference. I don't think it's the SEC, but it's a good conference, and there's no doubt about that. And he is going to struggle, in my opinion. I can't confirm that, obviously, but I got a feeling. I mean, I don't know if his eyes are 100% set on football. I think he's had distractions. I mean, not to go into his personal life too deep, but I mean, I guess after he's got out of the relationship with Hannah Cavender, maybe he'll be a little bit less distracted. But I mean, who knows? He still might. I don't think he's a very focused person to begin with, and I don't think he's an honest person. For people who don't know the story, he pretty much said to the media he was there for Gunnar Stockton every day. He's working with him hands-on, helping him really prepare for that Notre Dame game because he knew he couldn't play for the rest of the season. In reality, he wasn't there. He was actually in Los Angeles getting a second opinion on his arm so that he could play. And if you watch that game, the UGA versus Notre Dame game, he stood on the sidelines by himself. He lost all the respect of his teammates. He said he was going to go to the NFL. I was happy for him. He had given 2 years to the program as a starter. Well, more than 2 years. 2 years as a starter. But I was happy for him. Then he left the draft, and I thought, oh, it's going to come back to UGA. I'm fine with that. Then he went to Miami, and I was like, well, why are you going to Miami? Like, this program gave you everything you ever wanted. Turns out it's because he burned a bridge at UGA, and we didn't learn that until a couple of days later. He should have been getting in so much trouble at Miami. I mean, I don't know if it's all the breakup. Yeah, that's trouble. That's a mess. That was drama centered around him. His cars got stolen. I feel bad for his cars getting stolen. But not to go too deep into his personal life once again. But part of why I think he went there was obviously Hannah Cavender. But then a $4 million NIL deal. Is he in it for the money, or is he in it to win championships? Or is he in it to win games? I think he's in it for the money. And that's fair. I mean, like, but I do believe that, especially if I was in Carson Beck's spot, really good shot he's going to the NFL. He's going to be making a lot more than $4 million in the NFL. So why is he taking the $4 million with the $4 million NIL deal? He could go somewhere where he can win a championship. Personally, I don't think he can win a championship. I think that was his thought process. He's not good enough to win a championship. I don't know why he's being looked at for the NFL. And I truly hope that when he does so bad this season, his draft stock will fall off. Maybe he'll even go undrafted. I think it'd be hilarious to watch Diego Pavia go higher than this man in the draft. I would laugh, and I would laugh, and I would laugh. I don't know if he gets caught yet. I don't like that guy at all.
Yeah.
I think he's a troublemaker. I think he brings drama to the program. And I think he's not that good to begin with.
Yeah. I mean, we kind of saw that with Shedeur Sanders, how he should have declared, but he said that he wanted to do one more year so he could be first overall, and he ends up going to Cleveland Browns. I don't even know what round, like 5th round, 6th round?
With 144th pick.
See, that's insane. All right, guys. So, this is episode 2 of the channel. We really didn't know that we were going to be that successful, right, Evan? Like, to begin with.
Yeah, I mean, been a great success so far. I'm really happy with what we achieved in the first episode.
Yeah. But we thank you guys for, like, watching every episode, for following us on Instagram, for subscribing to us on YouTube. Like, it means a lot. And we're trying to get more people on, you know, to even talk about us, like, debate us on, like, these topics, like sports, Bible, like, current events, anything. So if y'all are interested, just DM us, let us know. But thank y'all for all the support.
Yeah, like what Tony said, huge success first episode. We thank you guys. And just know if you ever want to be in the show, you can always write in. And another thing that we've started, if you want to suggest the topic, anything that you think could be improved about the show, I've had the people ask me about that. We would love to hear your feedback. We would love to hear what you guys want to listen to. And if you want to suggest a topic, we have a form for that. So if you're interested, fill out that form and we'll take all suggestions into consideration.
Form will be in the description, so y'all can just go to the description and fill it out. Well, thank you guys. See you guys next time. Remember, keep God first.